View of wealth. Class number 2. Class number 1 was not videoed, but we do have an audio of it. So hopefully the audio we will post as well. Okay, just a couple quick housekeeping notes. Number 1 is the high holidays are a week and a half away. And they'll start sweating now. And we have the high holiday learner services. We'd love to have you all come join us. So just make sure that you're signed up so we have enough space. So that's for the high holiday learner service. As well, we have with this class we have again next week. Next Tuesday we have this. And life is great. Alrighty, and hopefully this Shabbos I will be at a bar mitzvah. I will not be at the learner service at Torah. Okay, so last week we started off with the Torah view of wealth. We said number 1 is to understand what is your net worth, and we talked about that people kind of just think in dollars and cents when really we are worth way more than any money we have. But it's really our talents, it's our brains, it's our intelligence, lots of other stuff. We said, who wants to be a millionaire? And then why do you want to be a millionaire? If God gave you what you have, because that's what you need, right? So then why you were to try to become somebody else when you are who you are and focus on what you have, right? And then also, if you do want to become a millionaire, right? So you have to say, well, what do I want to do with the money, right? Because money is not an end to itself. Money is just a means to an end, right? It's a way that, but it's a tool. And actually, if we're not going to use it properly, it's probably better that we don't have it. And the challenges of being rich are much harder than the challenges of not being rich. And so that was that. We said, who does our money belong to? And so we tend to think that our money belongs to ourselves, right? Which is really really something that we kind of have to realize, that our money does not belong to us. Our money belongs to God, and we are just His treasurers, right? And so it's our job to be a good treasurer. And if we do with God's money what He gives us, we do the right things, then that's the impetus for God to give us more money, right? And so if that's what we want to do, so then we have to recognize that we have to make sure we do with it what we need to. And why does He give us money? So again, right? So God gives us money because He wants us to use it wisely, right? So if we use it wisely, so then that's good, right? We sort of become His treasurers, right? And we could have different projects that each one of us might do, right? Then actually there's a ranking of how we're supposed to actually give charity, what we are supposed to do with our money, and we'll hopefully get to that. I don't believe we'll get to it this week, but hopefully by next week we'll get to that. Right? And then we talked about as our primary goal in this world to work and to succeed in our career and enjoy the benefits of our hard work, or is our goal, on the other hand, to please God, right? And kind of having to pick, right, which one it is, right? Which one is really more important, right? Then it's always a good, important question to ask ourselves. And then we said, why do we work? And so we said that we went back to Adam in the Garden of Eden, right? When they had everything they needed, they did not need to work. And so therefore, what did they have back? Why would their job in the garden was la'avdo, u'lishamra, right? Was to work it, right? Really was working, right? Was avodah shabalev, really was work of the heart, right? Which is really prayer, right? And to guard the garden, right? To guard it from what, right? Not to eat from the tree, right? That they were not supposed to eat from, right? They could eat from 1,000,000 trees. It was 1,000,000 in the first tree they couldn't eat from, right? They couldn't eat from the challah tree, right? And they had to wait until Shabbat was supposed to come. But somebody stole the challah before right? It was who stole my cheese, right? Who stole my challah, right? So somebody, right? They ate the challah before Shabbat, and so that was always, right? Always just not good, right? And so it caused a lot of trouble for mankind. Therefore, God had to kick men out of the garden. Why? To go to work. Why do we have to go to work? So work is a way to remind us, right? Work is really a way to remind us that we need God, right? And therefore, right, everyone got, right, the curses that they got, because those curses really are meant as a way to help us to become greater God-fearing people, right? And so therefore, in the areas in which our job is supposed to be, right? So then at that point in time, that's the place in where, right, we got our challenges in order so that we go ahead to force us to focus and to remember that God is the one who's in charge, right? So for example, you go ahead and you have, right, so it says a woman, right, so she's going to have pain in childbirth. Why is she going to have pain in childbirth? Because, right, why? So then that way she'll pray to God, right, to help her out. And so she'll pray to God. So when she prays to God, that will go ahead and that will cause her, right, to remember God and to not, right, to keep that relationship. That's said that really that everything that happens in the world is a way for man to go ahead, mankind, right, to go ahead and to connect to God. And so everything in this world is set up as a way for us to go ahead and to as a way to go ahead and to connect to God. Okay? And that's what the Talmud says, right in Curated Brachos, somebody who is in business has more awe of God than somebody who sits and studies Torah the whole time. Why? Because somebody sits and studies Torah the whole day, so he could get lost in the forest, right? He could get lost in the trees and not see the forest. Somebody who's out there and working, right? So they have to say, okay, well, who's going to make sure I keep my job? Who's going to make sure that I get paid? Yada yada. You ready? Why is a client going to come to me and not to somebody else? And all those things are going to go ahead and going to push somebody to go ahead and to force them to remember God, right, and to keep our relationship with God, to keep it, right, to make sure that we're connected to God, right, and so therefore at that point in time, right, that's why we go to work, and that's why from then on we used to have all our food waiting for us, but then it says God, the curse for a man was with the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, right, because right at that point in time you go ahead. And now it's forcing you to go to work, and you're gonna have to ask God to make it grow, etc., etc. Okay, right? That's right, and then right, and so therefore, and really, all the steps along the way really are set up for us to force us to go ahead to focus on God, right? To go ahead and to create that relationship with God, right? And the good news is that if you don't learn it the first time, you'll get a second reminder. And if you still don't get it after the second reminder, guess what? God is really good. What does He do? He gives you a third reminder. And if you don't get it after the third reminder, what does He do then?
Send IRS.
Right? Sends the IRS. Okay, right? He sends the fourth. Right? Sends the fourth reminder. Right? And it goes ahead, onward and onward ho. Right? Going ahead and pushing us, right, to go ahead and to remember that we need God in our lives. As much as we might try to run away from that and think we can make it on our own, and at the end of the day, we recognize that there is nothing we can really do. And that's really it's an amazing thing when you recognize that. When you finally come to that realization that really we stand here at the whim of God, right, and really how frail, right, we think we're big tough people, right, and we're strong and we don't need God. Right, just imagine we all are, right? Then when we're driving today, going over 40, 50 miles an hour, right? And what was to happen if somebody would go ahead and you slammed into somebody at 40, 50 miles per hour? What would the big, strong you do? Crumble. That's what happened. Exactly what you do. You crumble, right? So you aren't so big and tough and strong after all, right? And right, to go ahead and you go to sleep at night and the thunder and lightning is going ahead, and what happens if lightning bolt looks at a human being? You know what a lightning bolt sees? A bag of water with little two legs walking, right? Because we're how much water? We have 96% water. I forgot the exact makeup of what a human being is, and if that happens, we're toast, we're gone, right? We recognize that truly we are in the hands of God, right? And the more we recognize that, we're able to relate to that and understand that, and then we realize that our job in this world is really to go ahead and to get to that relationship. And you actually take a look, you take a look at how a human being starts off this life and how he ends this life. And you think you're tough and you're strong, and you're right. So we're pretty strong guys, right? Right. And what happens? But we think we're beautiful. Anything physical that we trust in. But at the end of our life, except a few ladies in this room here, of course, but it disappears, right? Right? It just does,
Definitely.
right? It just goes. It starts going, and I'm already up to the point of bifocals, right? Like ready, right? Eyesight's one of the first things to go, right? You ready to start eating bifocals, your eyes can't focus as well, right? You go ahead and you kind of get different things that come along, and that, and it begins showing you that there's nothing physical really that you are. And at the end of the day, right, when you're ready to leave this world, nothing physical left. You ain't got your beauty, you ain't got your looks, you ain't got your eyes, you probably aren't walking too well, right? The hips are beginning to stiffen up.
Sometimes you lost
Right.
your memory.
Sometimes you might have lost your mind, right? Your memory. That's a big one lately, right? You know why Alzheimer's is such a big thing nowadays? Because people are stopping to use their brains. So God says, why should I give you brains if you don't use them anymore? Right? What's our holy grail? Our holy grail is to retire by the time we hit 65. Early retirement, 60, 65, it's great. We could travel the world for the last 30 years of our life. And really, is that why God put you in this world? I'm just curious. It's amazing what people think. It's just an amazing. And by the way, and you ask those people, they say, "Oh no, that's not the reason." And will they change their behavior? No, right? Lots of things we know, but getting to the point of that we're willing to actually change something based on what we know, that's always something that is quite challenging, right? That's something that is something that it's important for us to know. Okay, so more in this man in the desert, right? What did the Jewish people eat in the desert? Manna. Okay, manna, right? Right? They ate all this manna in the desert. Now let me ask you all a question. What did the Jews do to deserve God sending them manna every day?
They left Egypt.
And so they left Egypt, and so now they left Egypt, and all of a sudden they deserve to have manna come down?
Sure.
What did they...
80% of the Jews didn't make it out of Egypt.
Correct. And
So they survived. They got out of Egypt, and they were a holy people. And because they're holy people, God took care of them.
Okay. So what we did, we didn't do anything, right? We existed, right?
Yeah,
and
we
God
studied
goes ahead.
Torah with our rabbis.
And make sure you study a lot of Torah with your rabbis, right? What work did the Jewish people do in the desert? How many companies did we open up? In the desert, when Jewish people 40 years in the desert, right? Yeah. So what did we do in the desert?
We walked.
No, actually not. 38 years we actually didn't walk. 37 years we actually didn't walk at all. Yeah, we were in camp one place for 18 years, one place for 19 years.
Well, we didn't walk much. So we studied Torah.
Okay, right. What was our job? Our job is to study Torah, right? That's right. That's at the end of the day, right? That's what we did. And even when we went to the desert, right, we sort of had the moving sidewalks with us, right? The God kind of transported us like on the wings of eagles, right? He took us out where He wanted us to take us, right? Didn't do a lot, right? No working, and yet did we manage to survive in the desert for 40 years?
Yeah.
Did we thrive in the desert for 40 years?
Yeah.
Right? And so, in fact, God said, take a jar of this manna and stick it next to the Holy of Holies by the ark. Because later on, people were going to get so used to working, they were going to forget to study Torah. And along came the prophet, and he took the manna out. And he says, remember, Jews, who fed you in the desert? How much work did you have to do? Right? So remember, work is, today we are cursed with having to go to work. Right? But we have to recognize that going to work is not the end. Right? And again, we talked about last week that a lot of times that we go ahead and we associate ourselves, right, certainly in America, right, with our net value or with what we do. Right? You see somebody walking down the street and the guy says, hey, that guy's successsul. Right? What's the first thing we think? What does that mean? Money. It could be he's on his fourth marriage, he's got, and he's got, kids that won't talk to him, but he's successful because he has money. And that's ridiculous. Right? It's not about money. Right? It's about going ahead and it's about doing, right? It's about doing with what we have. right? It's recognizing, right, that who it comes from God, and that's what our job is to do in this world. Right? Okay, and now but again, every night, right, in the manna, right, the manna fell every morning. What happened at night when you went to sleep? How much manna did you have left over in your cupboards? Zero. Zero. Now, if we had a financial planner there, Scott, what do you think he would have told everyone to do with their manna?
Save.
There we go. Save. Save it, right?
But you weren't saved.
Right? Save the manna. And what happened if you tried to save your manna?
It disappeared.
It disappeared. Right? Right? They were not allowed to save the manna. Right? Now today, by the way, it's different. Right? Today we are supposed to go to our financial planners and to make sure that we save. Right? Very important. Right? I'm sure Scott could recommend a few financial planners. Right? So then we go ahead and we have, right, to go ahead and to, right, it's in those days, they went to sleep in the desert, they had no food in their cupboards. And how many Walmarts were around by then? Zero. Well, Walmart wasn't around. Bentonville hadn't been founded yet. It couldn't be a Walmart, right? That's to be found in Bentonville. Right? So they went to sleep with no food in the cupboards and nothing. So what did they do every morning when they woke up? They went out and got the manna, if they were deserving of it. And fascinating, by the way. I want to tell you something amazing about the manna. You know what happened? Where did your manna fall? Everyone got their own package of manna. Okay? Right? Why did everyone get their own package of manna?
So they wouldn't take the other person's manna.
Why did everyone need their own package of manna?
Because that was what they needed.
Because everyone got exactly what they needed. Right? And you know what happened? You know what fell with the manna? Jewels. Yeah. Diamonds, rubies.
Wow.
Came down with the manna. The more righteous you were, right? You got manna and you got gold, silver, rubies, right? Diamonds. That came down with your manna. But everyone got their own manna. What happened if you took somebody else's manna?
The jewels disappeared.
Not good, right? Not good, right? So you came and you went and you had your own manna, your own portion. Now, why did God do it that way? Why don't He just go ahead and have everyone just like dump like a truckload of manna? Say, go collect. Everyone go take your portion of manna.
There wasn't enough manna for everyone there.
Right. So why didn't God?
For everyone.
So why didn't God just leave like a whole truckload pile? And you just came. You came with your container, your Tupperware container, and you filled it up, and you went back home.
Beautiful for every day.
For every day. But why did God make everyone get their own specific manna?
You might be tempted to take somebody else's manna.
Oh no, this way it would be more tempting, right? If everyone had their own individual. See, I like Norm's manna, right?
So do I.
You better get there before me, right? But why? So why did God just create like a dump load, right, of manna? Why didn't we get their own manna?
Based on your ability to.
Because God was teaching us a very important lesson.
Right.
You know what lesson God was teaching us?
I'll decide how much you're going to get.
Everyone get what they need.
Or what they want.
Right? Everyone gets what they need.
Yes.
Right? Everyone got a specific portion.
Yes, because the
Right?
What they need or what they deserve?
What they need.
God always will take care of what they need.
For
Now
the day.
sometimes sometimes God will go ahead and God will take and will give what you need to somebody else because that somebody else is supposed to give to you. You following?
Yeah, he's
Right? Meaning God feeds us all. Okay?
See, I got you that.
Right? God feeds us all. Right? And does God feed every animal?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you feed the animals?
Yes.
Yeah, I feed the mosquitoes when they come biting on me. Right. But does God make sure that every animal gets what they need?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Right. God goes in and God creates this. He's doing a pretty good job, huh?
Mhm.
I mean, do you know how many meals He serves a day?
Every living.
God is very busy, right? He's right. And how many animals there are, and God's making sure they all get fed. Right? He makes sure that all the human beings get fed. But sometimes He gives other people in order to be able to give to those other people. Yeah.
So it's the beautiful is that He gave us in those years, our ancestors, just that they needed for the day, not to be worried for tomorrow. Just on Shabbat to get everything for today.
Right.
Instead of, I don't need to be worried for tomorrow. Yes?
Right.
Just for today.
Right, but why would
He's
it?
going to provide me just for today. Yes?
Right, just
This
today.
is the
Now, why
idea,
did God only give us enough food for today?
Because He's going to
That's what we
provide us
need
for
for
tomorrow.
today.
Because,
He's in charge of tomorrow.
do you think?
What we need
Okay.
today, God provides
So
it.
work for it tomorrow.
Why?
Well, actually, it's interesting, no, because we got the food in the morning before we went to work.
Yeah, but if you had everything, why would you get up the next day? For 2 days
Okay.
later,
Yeah,
right?
so go ahead.
So why would He give you everything?
Well, today you have more than you need for today and tomorrow, and you're still getting up.
True.
That's because today is only, tomorrow is not promised, so it's only today, so you only need to, you're hungry right now, today, you're trying to feed yourself today, right?
So what is God teaching us?
We need to continue to be good.
Can it be good?
Trust.
To trust in Him.
Trust all the time.
Right, to understand.
He's going to provide.
Right. God is feeding us, giving us the people in the desert every day, in order for us to learn to trust in God. Right. The more we learn to trust in God, the greater we can become. Yeah.
What about the people that are starving?
Also very
That die
interesting.
from hunger?
Right. So very interesting. You know, there is enough food in the world to feed the world, like, many times over. Right. So there's plenty of food.
But some people don't have access to even clean water.
Correct.
Children that are dying.
Correct.
I'm in a class, honey.
Correct.
They're taking in water that has diseases and bacteria.
Right.
Do you need
Yeah.
anything?
So all those things are exactly
Oh, you're welcome, honey.
the other
I'll
people
give you the
are
rest.
obligated to help them out.
I'll
Right.
give you the rest.
Meaning it's very fascinating that there's hunger, right? That there's hunger in the world, right? That this hunger in the world is mostly man-made, right? And so it's man who's causing the problem, not God.
So there are people that have way too much, and
Thank you.
people that have nothing,
But it's not way too much because God gave it to them.
but they can't.
They haven't figured out what they're supposed to do with it.
They got pulled in.
Right? I once had a guy come and say to me, he said, "Rabbi, I need your help." I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "I have so much money, I know I'm going to mess my kids up.
Yeah.
So I need to figure out what I need to do with
That's a
it."
big problem.
Right? It's an amazing thing. Right? He was at least smart enough to recognize, right, to give it to his kids will mess them up even worse. Right? So God doesn't make mistakes. Right? The question is we have to learn what to do with it.
You have to work, but God just doesn't give it to you.
Also good. So what type of work do you have to do?
Whatever you can do.
Okay, so good. So we have to use our potential.
Right.
Right? And so we have to use, right, and we have to do what we need to do.
Right.
Right? That's
and
all.
then God will provide for you.
Right.
Following to what she says.
Yeah.
Like people in Africa.
Yeah.
So these people have to suffer because they had a crooked government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because
So
of
people-
because of that, children have to die.
People are wicked.
So
Well, your
so
question.
God illuminates them and for them to go and do something, educate.
I agree
or
with you.
something.
I agree with you 1,000,000%. I think God should kill all the people that aren't doing what He tells them to do, and only the righteous should exist.
That's not true. Only
No,
the,
no. What's the problem? What's the problem?
only the righteous.
You want to live in the Messianic era.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what's going to be the Messianic era, right? That's going to be when the whole world comes to know God. Right? When the world is bereft of God, so people make poor decisions. Right? And part of God's plan is that we can learn to do the right thing. Right? And to learn to make the right decisions. And that's our job. Right? To do the right thing.
But they have no means to know what's right.
So the question you have to ask then is, who chooses who has what leaders and what they do with those leaders, right? And it's a valid point anywhere in the world.
They don't choose,
right?
The leaders choose themselves.
Right, they come with their army and just starts killing.
Right. No. So there's certainly people like that, but it started from somewhere, right? And it's people problems, not God problems.
I think
Right? Evil exists in the world. I certainly agree with. I'm with you. I know evil exists in the world.
It's people's problem.
Problems caused by people, not by God. Right?
What about
But
the
God's
children
not
that
going
died?
to just give you money to live on if you don't do anything for yourself.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
If everyone has a purpose in the world from Hashem,
Yeah.
and someone doesn't have the opportunity to even fulfill that purpose because other human beings are putting them down, so what could be an example of purposes in someone's life that has, I guess, no chance because they don't have water or food to even be able to survive?
That's a very interesting question, but I want to tell you something that just is just let me give you just another way to look at it. I had a very interesting story that happened with me. I had somebody come to my table, a husband and wife, and the husband was dying. Okay, and the wife was very unhappy, as you can imagine. And so I said to the wife, I said, let's go to lunch. And the wife, for months, avoided me. And finally, I cornered her and went to lunch. So I sit down. She goes, Rabbi, what do you want from me? I said, my dear, there is nothing that you have that I want. So she said to me, okay, what do you want me to do? Which is a better question. So I said, I don't want you to do anything. I said, you make your own choices. I said, but I might be able to help you out a little bit. So let's just have a conversation. I said, how long do you think? I said, you're angry. She says, oh, I am steaming. I said, why are you so angry? She said, my husband's a great guy. What did he do? Why is he dying? I thought a very valid question. I said, well, listen, I'm a rabbi. I don't know the answer. Right? You need a prophet to tell you why something happens to a person. Right? I said that's just the way the world is. I said, what I can help you is that there are 4 reasons why people die. I said, and I'm quite actually surprised. And only one of the reasons is because the person is wicked. One is that they're so beloved that they want to be that God wants them to be near them. I said one is because they're wicked. One is the sins of the parents are visited on the child, and the other one is that they're here and they lived the amount of time they were supposed to live. Okay, so I said, so in reality, I said, I'm surprised that you think your husband's wicked. He's a wonderful person, right? Beloved by God. I said, how long are you here for? She goes, I don't know. I said, could today be your last day? She said, sure. I said, and today could be my last day. Sure, right? So what do we really trust in? Right? When we live, what do we really trust in? So I want to give you a little secret. There's only one thing to trust in. God. And the quicker we figure that out, the happier our lives will be. Right? Because at the end of the day, nothing else really matters. right? It's right. God will decide. Obviously, we have to make our proper choices, right? And we have to do what we need to do, right? So there's a reason why everything happens, and in that, God is the only one who is so great that He can kind of bring it all together, right? I mean, this person's free will with this person's free will, what happens, right? That's how God runs His world. And I will tell you something: I am not smart enough to understand God.
No one is smart.
No.
Right? And actually, it's a great verse we say every Friday night. It's in the Psalms, right? It's actually in the Friday night service. In the Friday night service, right at the end of right after L'Chadozi, okay? Right? Okay, we go ahead. No, it's Psalm 92. Right? Okay, but it's the verse, right? A song for this Sabbath day. It is good to thank God and to sing praises to your name, O exalted one, to relate your kindness in the dawn and your faith in the night. Right? Kindness in the dawn is when we can see. Right? So we could say His kindness when we see it, and faith at night, because night is when we don't understand why God does what He does. But we know God's in charge. Upon 10 stringed instruments and lyre was singing accompanied by a harp. Right? We're going to bring out a whole orchestra to praise God and to thank God. And then it says this: for you have gladdened me, Hashem, with your deeds. At the works of your hand I sing glad song. How great are your deeds, Hashem. Exceedingly profound are your thoughts. A boor cannot know, nor can a fool understand this. When the wicked bloom like grass and all the doers of iniquity blossom, it is to destroy them till eternity. May Jewish remain exalted, Hashem. Right? We don't understand why God does what He does. Right? God runs the show. Right? And so, we say, God, let me understand you. And it's fascinating. You know who said, God, let me understand you? Moshe. Moses. There's a long line of people. Abraham said it. Moses said it. And what did God say to Moses?
You can't see
my face.
And what does that mean?
It means you can't see my goodness right directly. You can only see it in retrospect.
It's the old joke. I could tell you what I do, but I'll have to kill you. So God says to Moses, you're a human being. Right? You're finite. I'm infinite. For something infinite to explain to somebody finite what I am, He says, you can only do that when you die. He says, there's no way for a finite being to understand something infinity. Aren't you following? Mm-hmm. Right? And so therefore, right? And so that was what God said to Moses. It's not that I can't explain it to you. I can explain it to you. You can't understand it. Right? And so God has so many things.
You can only understand infinity mathematically. You cannot understand it as a human being.
Right? It's right.
It's outside of our experience.
Right? It's up, right?
Even when we die, we're still finite.
Right? Well, it depends. Go ahead.
We're still finite, but we're
Frankie,
less finite.
You know, I always understand that when He said to Moses, "No one see my face lately," it's like we are characterized as a people that will seek after God every day, every second minute. You know, to seek after Him, to get to Him.
Now, our goal is to try to is right to as much understanding of God as we can, but it's still only a tiny little bit. None of us know how long we're here for, right? Right? We could be here today, gone tomorrow. Right? We all know that, right? Intellectually, we all understand that.
Sometimes I think maybe God likes the world to be chaotic like that, because if everyone were to get along, we were all to be, help each other and get along, then there wouldn't be anything left. We're all getting along, everything is fine, then that would be the end of the world.
No, that would be the world would reach its completion. That would be when the world has served its purpose, and then we go into the Messianic era. Then we move into the whole reason God created the world was so that God can give to us. All He wants us is to be able to give to us pleasure. That's all God wants. Anything else kind of gets in the way of that. Right? It's an amazing.
The key is that God is the only one who can be a pure giver.
Right.
Because all of us, when we give, we're still getting something
It
back.
could be. I mean, but that's right. But ultimately, at the end of the day, God wants to give. Right? He wants the world to be a great place, and that's really it. That's our job.
Going back to where Moshe had, if Moshe were to die, then he could understand the
Yeah.
infinite and be on similar level
Right.
of Hashem. So when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of good knowledge
Knowledge.
of good and evil,
Yeah.
did they expand their awareness or consciousness to where they were infinite at that point?
No. That was what the snake told them would happen.
Okay.
Okay, that was the lie. Right? The lie was that this was the God tree. You're going to eat from this, and you're going to become God. Right? And you'll know everything. Right? That was the hook that the snake hooked Eve with.
He
And
was
yet-
a politician.
And what happened? And what happened? What happened when they actually ate from it?
They lost it.
They lost their connection to God. Because at that point in time, right?
Yes.
What really happened was that, you see, we identify ourselves with our body. But in reality, we're not our body, we're our soul. Let me repeat that. We identify ourselves with our body, but in reality, we are our souls.
So they
Right? Right? Everyone agrees? Okay, now let me ask you a question. Tell me if this statement is true. If you ate supper before class, I am full. Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
Meaning my
I am
stomach
what?
is full.
I am full.
No.
Yeah.
it's not.
Right? Now, what about I have a soul? You all have a soul?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, both of those are incorrect statements.
Wow.
You don't have a soul. You are a soul. Very good. You are a soul.
Yeah.
You are not full. Your body is full.
Yes.
And yet you identify, right? You identify with your body and not with your soul. Before we ate from the tree of knowledge, we identified with our soul. You know, you can imagine, the great story Pinocchio,
Yes.
right? And you have Jiminy Cricket, right, with the guy on his shoulder, trying to sell him on all those things, right? So, right, then you have the good guy and the bad guy, right? Who's going to win, right? That's exactly what happened was before, right? Before we ate from the tree of knowledge, we identified with our soul, and it was the evil inclination trying to sell us. So much so that Adam said, "This is a joke. God, if my job is to not listen to evil inclination, heck, I'm out of here." Right? I don't know. There's no way in the world he can make me do that. He says, "I'm going to eat from the tree. I'm going to internalize evil inclination, and then I'm going to serve God." Right? And then that will really show God how much I love Him. Great idea. What's the
It was
problem?
someone, but it was not reality.
He couldn't execute, right? He ate from the tree, and the first thing God shows up, and what does man do?
Hides.
He says, "God, you can't see me." Right? It's like the good old ostrich. Stick your head in the sand, nobody can see me.
The outside eye open to see what's on the outside instead of and close the inner eye, which was the one that only saw souls. When they ate the fruits, they closed the inner eyes, which only saw souls, and opened the outside eyes, which saw
Okay,
body.
which was so about it, which right? Okay, right. I mean, they were right. It's, okay, you can. There's one more.
Outward instead of looking inward initially.
What?
So initially we're looking inward, I guess, towards the
Or
soul.
or initially we were a soul that had a smidgen of physicality. Right? It means when if I was to take you back in my time machine, and we were to go back to the first day of the world, and we would show up in the Garden of Eden, and we would see Adam and Eve, what would we see?
Translucent.
We'd see like these two bright lights coming towards us. That's all we would see, right? Because their soul shined so brightly, there was no, and the body was so translucent. All you saw was this blinding light.
They didn't have
Right? What happened after they ate from the tree? They became embarrassed.
They
What did
lost
they
the
become
light.
embarrassed?
They looked
Their
at
body
something
became
and-
physical, and it dimmed their light. And they said, "Oh my gosh, we're an embarrassment to the human race."
Their children were also
Punished.
like
Yeah, they were punished like that.
They had children that they were born in
Yes.
the garden.
Yeah. Actually, 5 children.
So they were all translucent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then when
That's
the,
just
when the
More
parents,
bright light.
the parents ate the tree.
When they ate from the tree,
And then the children
that's
also
what happened.
suffered because of the parents.
Right, sure, that's what happened. We switched our identity from our body to our soul. Right, from our soul to our body, right? Right? Okay.
We know what you mean, Grandpa.
Yeah, okay.
It looks so beautiful, you know, two big bright lights.
Bright light. Small little lights running around. Yeah. Okay. So right, and we said right. So the job is really right. Going back to the manna, nothing was left over. They went to sleep at night in the desert with nothing in the cupboards. Why did they have nothing in the cupboards?
They had faith that God would
Because
restore.
God was training us to learn to trust in God. Right? We told the story last week. Right? Great sages go to sleep. They don't want anything in their house. You know why? Because then they're going to trust in what they have in their house, and they won't trust in God. Right? There was a great sage who was running around late at night, 11 o'clock at night, and saying, where's there a poor person? They said, what do you want a poor person? They're sleeping. He says, well, someone have money to give out. He says, oh, give it to them tomorrow morning. He says, but I can't go to sleep with money in my house. So if I go to sleep with money in my house, I'm going to begin trusting in myself and not in God. Right? And so we have to learn to, right? We have to learn to kind of work on ourselves to trust in God and not in what we think we have, not in what we think we are. Right? So what did they do with all the time then in the desert? They had all the food in the world, everything taken care of. Their clothes grew with them, dry cleaned every night by the clouds of glory around them. Water, running water going right through their tents. Right. So what were they doing every night?
Learning.
Learning. Right.
Learning
Studying
Torah.
Torah. Now God did that on purpose, by the way. You know why God did that on purpose? Because Jewish people just left 210 years of living in Egypt, right? Then 90 some odd years of backbreaking labor, right? So he had to catch them up in order to be able to learn Torah. So for 40 years he provided us with all our needs, and then we traveled the desert, right? We were able to study Torah uninterrupted.
But several of them never stopped learning. You know, the Leviim.
Yep, very good. Right, the tribe of Levi, right, was studying in Egypt, and they were studying in the desert. And that's actually why the tribe of Levi was one that was able to catapult themselves to become the chosen tribe, really. Right, because right when it came time, when Moses came down, the tribe of Levi was the one that really rocked the house, right? They really did what they did. Yes, Norm?
So when they were studying Torah in the desert, and they would pray.
Yeah.
Did they pray the same way we pray now today with our siddur?
Our siddur, no. So they did not have a siddur. In the olden days, everybody knew how to compose prayers, and they prayed the same format.
So they had a Shemona Esrei.
They had a Shemona Esrei, right? They had the same format. They just didn't, the words, everyone would choose their own words. What happened was, right, roughly 2,400 years ago, right, people began to lose, right, on how to pray. Right? And so what happened was, so along got the men of the Great Assembly, and they sat down and they wrote out the prayers so that we could pray and talk to God properly.
In unison.
In unison for sure, but also properly. And by the way, unison is funny. It's really not unison. When we say public prayer, what part of the prayer are we actually talking about?
Shemona Esrei.
Shemona Esrei, right? The silent devotion. When everyone's talking and going at their own pace. That's what we call public prayer. Right? It's not everyone said it. Okay, well, let's say it together. Shema Yisrael. That's not public prayer. I mean, it is public prayer. It is a prayer praying in public. Right? But public prayer that we talk about, right, is when everyone is doing the Shemona Esrei together. Right? That's what it is. Right? That's what public prayer is. Right? So, okay. So now, man and desert given some people could go and focus on God. Right? And that's what happened when we got into the land of Israel. We're no longer able to do that. At that point in time, we now had to go to work. Right? Because the work was the way to go ahead and to bring us to the peace, to the place, and being able to build a relationship with God. Now, is money a means to itself, means to an end, or an end in of itself?
Means to an end.
If you think it's a means to an end, raise your hand. If you think money is an end to itself, raise your hand. Yeah, you have to pick one or the other.
Means to an end.
What?
We only have a plurality.
What?
Means to an end.
It's a means.
What is it?
Means
Means to an end. Means to an end. Are you sure about that? You don't sound so convincing.
No.
final answer.
And final answer. Okay, you want to call a friend? We'll call Scott. I didn't see Scott had taken a vote on that one. Right? Money is not a means to an end. Excuse me, money is not an end to it. Freudian slip there. Sorry, guys. Right? Money is not an end to itself.
Yes.
Money, yeah, it's already recorded. Yeah. They're gonna say, "Look at what the Rabbi said." Okay, right? Right? Money is not an end to itself. Money is a means to an end.
That's what we just said.
What is the end?
Give it away.
What's an end?
Give it
To
away.
use it with the purpose.
To use it for the purpose it was given.
Yes, of
Right?
course.
Right? Again,
Yes.
right? Some money you need to keep
Not
for
only
yourself.
For me.
Right? Right? And we actually see, right? There's a prohibition of giving away all your money. You know that? We're prohibited to give away, right?
Rabbi, when you die, you're not going to have any money.
Listen, you're not even taking it with you.
You're not going to take
So
a
you
with
might
you,
as well
right?
give
It's
it,
worthless
give
in the
away
next
as much
world.
as you can while you're alive, and when you're dead, you give the rest of it away.
So, Rabbi,
Otherwise, the government will take it. Yeah.
what happened with our bank, our spiritual bank, our mitzvot? I need to share with other people.
So very good. Our
Only
spirit.
mine.
No, for sure. Our spiritual. The same thing works with our spiritual wealth.
What again?
Our spiritual wealth.
Yes.
Right?
Spiritual.
Spiritual wealth, right? What do we have to do with our spiritual wealth?
Share with others.
Share with others. Right?
Your level.
The mitzvot, for example,
Sure.
everything that I do.
No, he means like, let's say you are very spiritual, so
Yes.
you share your knowledge with other people.
Oh
so-
yes, of course.
Right,
For
right.
example, if I do mitzvot
Mhm.
by myself, you know,
Mhm.
because I need to do like everything. The good.
Right.
I need to pick somebody with me to
Absolutely.
to do
You
that
get
mitzvot.
you get like a double. It's like it's a
Oh,
multiplier.
No, by myself that I.
It's no, you do it by yourself is great. Who was the classic person who, instead of just doing by themselves, went to get other people?
Abraham Avinu.
Abraham, right? Abraham said, "I'm going to go teach other people rather than just work on myself." And what did God call Abraham?
The father of the people.
My beloved, my lover. Right? Abraham, right? He was Oyhavai. He was my beloved. You want to be beloved by God?
Why not?
Share.
Right? So right? Help other people get to know Him.
Come on, about we beloved of God. That's why we're here.
You're doing a good job, Frankie.
Yeah.
Okay, right? It's good.
It's forbidden to give all your money away
Yes,
to the point where you hurt yourself.
you're right. The point, right?
So as long as you are not depriving yourself, then it's fine.
Right. And so again, we'll get to that because there are what's it called? There's rules or there's ways on how to do it.
I want to tell you something really quickly. I was discussing this with my wife, Chana, at the Shabbos table.
Yeah.
I said, the great sages gave away all their money. I said, don't do that at home. You're not at their level.
Your wife is. You're not. Okay. So.
Same level.
Okay. It's money. So
What wealth do we have?
what?
You didn't answer the question.
No. Okay, right. So, money means to an end in itself, and we all agree money is only means to an end, right? So, what wealth do we have? The answer is we got lots of wealth, right? We have lots of things that are things that we can use.
We have the love of Hashem, right?
Love of Hashem. You have commandments. You have brains. You have intelligence. You have smart. There's so many different things. You have lots of wealth,
Gifts.
right? You have lots of gifts, right? So right. So go use it. Right? Don't. He who dies with the most toys does not win. You know, right? You see the bumper stickers?
Yeah, right.
He who dies with the most toys wins.
Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic.
Not true.
It's really not true. Right? And so at the end of the day, right?
The grave, the way we came into the world, empty.
And you should know. I want to tell you something fascinating. How do you know when a person dies?
There's no more breath. That's the one thing we could definitely say.
Go to the
When a baby is born in this world, how are the baby's hands?
Oh, yeah.
Clenched, closed.
And the person opens it.
When a person dies, what happens to the hands?
Open.
opens.
Everything has to
You
go
know
in
why?
there.
Right.
Because when a person comes to this world, they want to take,
We take it.
and when they die, they realize they got nothing in them. There's only one thing you take with you when you die.
So,
The feeling, the experience, the emotion.
Your mitzvahs, you take
Only what you gave away.
That's right.
But what?
Only what you gave away.
What you gave away.
No,
That's
the
why
answer
the
is
purpose
only
of
what
life
you
is to
sent
give away.
ahead. Only what, right, spiritual things you did. Right? So if we go running around in this world trying to gather all this physical things, ain't going with you.
it doesn't mean anything.
Correct. Absolutely. Okay. What are our responsibilities with the wealth that we have? If God has blessed us, and by the way, we in America are very blessed.
To have good relationships.
Right? And right?
And to be good to people.
Good, right? And to sanctify God's name. That's our job.
Yes.
Right? To go ahead, right? To go
Try
ahead.
to do what God would like you to do.
Right, that's right. That's our job, right?
So
That's
when you give charity, you're sanctifying God's name, right?
yes. And when you're nice to somebody, you are sanctifying God's name. And when you're pleasant and you don't yell at people and you're nice, and sure when borders comes in, the whole world lights up. Right? What are you doing? Right? Right? You're sanctifying God's name. Right? And the answer is that, and it's really very important for us to understand, and I can't say it enough times, right? That we go ahead and that we kind of get ahead so messed around, right? Is that we have so many gifts. Right, and God gave us those gifts because our job is to do the right thing with them. That to make sure that we do the right thing. Because I'll tell you something fascinating. The more gifts you have, the more responsibilities you have. Right? Now, the more gifts you have, the more responsibilities you have. The more responsibilities you have to make sure then that you're doing with what you have, you're doing the right thing. If you're not doing the right thing with it, right, so then at the end of the day, so then those things, instead of becoming gifts, become liabilities, right? They start costing us, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to stand in front of God and we're going to give an accounting of everything that we had and how we used it.
I withdraw my account already.
You know what?
I withdraw my account already.
No. You live in my block, you're coming with me, okay? We're not letting you go so fast.
Marba Kesef, Marba Doan.
Right,
the more money, the more worries.
No, that's not the translation. Marba Kesef, somebody who increases money, right, increases worry.
Okay,
right? Why? Because really what happens is if you're chasing after money, so then you're making that as your holy grail. So then you get yourself in trouble. Then you have worries. Right? Just having a lot of money doesn't make you worried. But if you think that that's what life's all about, that's when you got lots of problems. Right? You want to make sure it doesn't get lost. You want to make sure nothing happens to it.
I was going to point this out. So growing up, back where I'm from, I think it was my dad who, when we were kids, he would tell us, like, I guess trying to get us into believing in God and stuff like that. He will say, when you're nice to each other, you're nice to God. So just see your friends, because we don't know what God looks like. We can't see God, so just see others as God. Doesn't mean you have to pray to them.
Right.
You just, if you're gonna be nice to God, like, don't tell someone, hold on, when I come back from praying, I will beat you up or something. Then you go and be nice to God and you come and fight other people.
Right, sure.
So just be kind to others.
Right.
That's being kind to
Sure,
God. Right?
absolutely. That's all God wants us to do.
That's how I feel.
Is to get along.
And what happens when somebody hurts you? When somebody does something bad, wrong.
Okay.
How can
Okay, good.
I'm a short fuse.
Mm-hmm. You? No. It's a Latino.
It's okay, you are not the only one.
Well, you Israelis come with it by fear. Right. Okay, good. Okay, so let me.
Our question is, do you sometimes
Why? Who are you getting mad at?
No, are you?
Hold on.
How do you get with that? You never get angry.
No. No. So let me help you.
You never get angry.
How could you get angry?
How do you kill?
You never, ever feel angry.
How do you get angry?
Well, somebody. I was very angry today.
Oh,
Oh my God.
Sometimes they say the same.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Sometimes
So last week,
sometimes things happen to make you angry.
okay. So let me tell you something. So last week we read Nachmanides' letter, right? We said we're reading this every week, right? Every day, right? It says the worst thing in the world is to get angry, right? Angry is the thing that's going to destroy you. So let me tell you why. Okay, so let me help you through this, okay?
By the way, you wrote it when he was angry.
So let me help you out. Nachmanides, I don't believe ever got angry. Let me explain to you what went on. If somebody comes, I'll give an example. You're driving down the road, nice and easy, and somebody comes and cuts you off.
Right.
And gives you the finger along the way. Just to make sure that you know that he saw you and he's cutting you off on purpose. Okay? Just for example. No. Then we shoot him because it's through the front windshield, so we could shoot straight.
Yeah, but you're supposed to count until 10.
Till 10 before you shoot.
Yeah.
And then shoot. Okay. Right, okay. Okay.
I just honked the horn.
Yeah, you honk the horn. Now that's smart. I like honking the horn. I think that will really teach him a lesson. You see, I'm going to tell you what will really teach him a lesson.
What's the name of this?
Smile at him.
Do nothing.
George?
Do nothing.
That's right.
Because he's miserable. Why do you have to become miserable? You like when you become angry?
No.
So why are you becoming miserable? Because he's miserable. Right? Why are you letting him control you? If he's miserable, let him be miserable. I have to worry about every miserable person in the world. A lot of them. So why am I letting him bother me? If you could give me a good reason, I'm ready to listen.
But if it affects you.
No. If you choose to let it affect you, then what are you doing? Why the guy's a jerk? What does it have to do with you?
But he risked your life.
Yeah, he risked. He could have. He could have. He could have. Thank God. And if you get angry, then you get into an accident afterwards because you're angry, right? So then you're going to go and you're going to be angry, and then you're going to go and hit yourself. Okay. So now
So you need to thank God that you didn't have the accident.
No, you need to. Right. And you need to thank God that you're not him. God sent the jerk along your way, and you just say, "Thank God, I'm not a jerk."
Well, not today.
Right, not today, right? Or not now, at least, right? Right, but you understand, right? And now let me tell you something. Let me take it even a deeper level, right? You understand? Certainly, what I'm telling you makes too easy. Okay, let me make it a little more. Let me make it a little more difficult. Okay, let me just up the stakes a little bit. Okay, let me just up the stakes. Because now it becomes now becomes, I'll tell you what really you're supposed to think about. What I told you is certainly the easiest way to deal with it. Except, as Jews, we know that everything that happens to us comes from God. So now, when something like that happens, but you have to ask yourself, what message is God sending me? That's the question you really need to ask. And that's a question that takes a lot more thinking.
What message is
I
God?
forgot
Okay?
to find that message.
Right. That message is a lot more difficult, right, to hear. Now, the good news is, if you don't get the right message, guess what? You know what happens when you don't get the right message? You get the test again. So you get cut off this time from the other side. You see, God is so fantastic, and He loves us so much, He's not going to let us just walk away. He's going to make sure that we get the message.
So you still have a chance.
Yeah. Yes, so don't worry about it. But don't get angry, because all you're doing is you're letting some other guy control you. Then you let anyone control you?
No.
No. Right? Okay, so why? But you are. You're letting him control you, which the whole thing is silly.
When you get angry,
So,
you're letting
that's-
the other person control.
Yeah, sure.
So you don't get angry, then you're not letting them
Correct.
control.
And you win. I won. Yay, hey. 2 points for Epstein.
Now, you never know when the confrontation is going to
That's right.
You never know when that's going to happen.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
You know, sometimes you are not prepared for
Ah,
that.
that's right. You're going to walk out of class and somebody's going to cut you off on the way home and you're just going to laugh and you say, thank you, Hashem. Okay, Hashem, you told me how to take care of her. Right? But again, a few days later, you're going to forget about class and you're running to go somewhere and all of a sudden, somebody cuts you off again. And you're about ready to just blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, shoot. I forgot the message. So let me tell you how to not make that happen. Okay? I'm going to give you the secret. It's good you came tonight. This is a secret. If you learn this secret, you'll be the most amazing person. I mean, you're the most amazing person. But like you'll have, it'll be just you fly above everybody else. If you recognize every second of your life that Hashem is sitting on your shoulder, being with you. Okay?
You feel pretty good.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
It's too heavy.
And it's that's right. Now he's carrying you. Okay. Right.
You thank him
Okay.
for
Almost everybody. Okay, right? But the more that we learn to live with that reality, right, the greater we become. Okay? Right? So that way then, right, that whatever you are, then you never have to worry about it.
What is our reality?
Right? And we choose our reality. We really make our own reality. Right? I mean, reality is real, but it's what we're choosing to see and what not to see. And that's really what it is.
So he's sitting on your shoulder and watching you, right?
And protecting you, of course he is.
He's waiting for you to see how you are going to react.
Not waiting for you, he's rooting for you. Right? He's trying to help you. Right? God is our biggest fan. Right? It's amazing. Right? God's our biggest fan.
So, Rabbi, can we say, when like now we learned that he was sitting on our shoulder, and then when something happened, we can say, take over.
No, not take over. He's in charge all the time.
All right.
Okay, you know what you remind me of?
Sitting on my shoulder.
You know what you remind me of? You ever go to Tom Thumb when they got those new wagons that the kids like sit like in the front and have those little wheels?
Yeah.
You ever see the kids that are busy turning the wheels and steering it?
Nothing happens.
Right? And they walk out of the store and what do they say? I drove well in the store today. And how much control did they have over the cart? Zero. That's exactly what you're doing.
So sometimes.
Exactly, you have free will. Exactly, you have free will to choose how you're going to react when something happens to you. There's really not much in life you control, and I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. What?
I said I figured I don't have
Right? Okay, no, but I'll give you an example. I'll show you. Right? The first time in life that you really choose, and you might be a little bit different. The first time in life when you really choose with control might be where you're going to go for college. Except, you're really not control over that because you're choosing it based on what you were taught in high school or in elementary school. Now, who decided what you were taught in high school, elementary school?
God.
Your parents.
Your parent, yeah.
Right? So you really didn't choose that either. Now, once you finish your college, then you have to choose what job you want to do. But that really, again, you're only choosing that because you're choosing where you went to college, which really was decided by where you went to high school and where you went to elementary school. So really, you're not choosing that either. You're just doing what you were taught to do. So then, really, if you think about it, there's really not much in life that you really choose. I'm going to tell you what the only thing you choose is. Your awe of God. Awe of God. Hakol bidei shemayim. Everything comes from heaven. Chutz mi yirat shemayim, except for the awe of heaven. you can make choices, right? But free will, the choices you make is how godly do I want to be? The things that happen to us all come from God. They're all laid out. It's all there, right? It's an amazing thing, right? And so at that point in time, that's really what you choose, nothing else. So I'm sorry if you think you control your life. Really not much you control, right? But that's the bottom line. That's really what you control. When you're alone in your house and you have to choose, am I going to eat kosher or not? Right? I'm going to choose, am I going to keep Shabbat or not? I'm going to turn the light on, turn the light off or not? Nobody's going to know. Nobody knows.
Except God.
Except God.
Yes.
Right? Those are the choices that you're making. And it's learning to make those choices is really what makes you great. Right? And that's really what you control.
I want to ask a question. Maybe it's not a proper question. I don't know.
Go ahead.
When the Jews in Europe, when they started the persecution of the Jews in Europe,
Holocaust. Or in Europe.
They didn't defend themselves. They were just accepting what was happening because they felt that was what God was sending.
Because maybe part of it's called hishtadlus, our effort. And so you have to understand in every situation, what effort is God calling for you to do? For example, if somebody is to walk in here and say, Rabbi, I don't like you, and punch me. I don't sit there saying, okay, God, if you want me to be punched, he'll hit me, and if not, he'll miss me.
Just call me, I'll punch him back.
Okay, right? Okay, right? That's not what God says. Epstein, if somebody comes to punch you, punch his lights out. Defend yourself, right? And that becomes my responsibility. That's what's called hishtadlus. Okay, my effort, right? That's my effort that I'm required to do, right? So when something comes, I have to ask, what does God want me to do in this situation? Okay, he wants me to run, he wants me to fight, he wants me to shoot, right? Whatever you want, right? I always have to say, what does God want me to do in this situation?
So where do you get that answer from?
So why?
Where do you get that answer from? I'm so glad you asked that question. I happen to have a book with me that I think you should read.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't have time to look it up.
So don't wait until you're stuck to read the book.
You're supposed to remember what's in the book.
Yeah, you have to remember what's in the book.
So let me understand this. If I am always aware that God is on my shoulder,
yes.
I will not get angry.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, but then somebody surprises me and I forget, then I'm
So what do you have to do?
Remember again.
Yes, remember, quickly remember. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get angry.
You feel remorse afterwards.
Right.
Then you don't know what to do with the remorse.
Should
I go apologize to the guy?
And apologize, say sorry to God.
No,
it's more than that.
She did.
No, so the answer is
coming and pissed you off. He also has his God on his shoulder.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. People that have God on the shoulder usually don't do that to other people. No. So the answer is every case is different.
Yes.
Okay, every case is different, right? And there's all sorts of different ways that it plays out, etc. Right? So the answer is it's not right. Meaning, I would tell you something fascinating, just about the Holocaust, and I really don't like discussing it. Because people don't discuss it intellectually, they discuss it emotionally, and we can't really have an emotional discussion. The answer is the Germans were masters at mind manipulation. Masters. Okay, I mean, the Germans were able to take out 5,000, you heard of Babi Yar? Remember, they took out 5,000 Polish officers, not rank and file, officers, and just mowed them down. Let me ask you a question. The Polish army people couldn't figure out how to fight them? Matt, if you know you're going to get shot anyway, there's no way to take them down? Matt, what's the answer?
They were scared.
And the answer was that the Germans were very good at mind manipulation. Okay, they had it. It was very, very fascinating. And warfare in general is just a fascinating topic. if you ever actually stop and think about it. Because it's not the strongest who wins. It's really the ones that convince the other guy that they're stronger who wins. Right? Because it's amazing, right? Right? You have an army pursuing another and everyone's running away. So why don't we just stop running away, turn around and fight, and they'll beat you? I mean, but they're scared. They think they're stronger than you. So you're running away. You're just trying to save yourself. It's fascinating psychology. But that's really, and so even if people who are trained to defend themselves couldn't, how much more so other people? Right? And so it's a lot more. It's a lot more difficult. You know, it's interesting. There's a thing going around on YouTube. About Sarah. She's President Trump's no. President Trump's press secretary.
Sarah
Huckabee.
Sanders.
Sarah Sanders. That her it's a father. It's an unbelievable. It's a 2-minute clip. And actually, it got over like 6 different people, so I finally watched it. I figured somebody sending me something. Guy gets up and says, you know, there was a story that was a father took his kid and took her to Yad Vashem. You know, and the kid was 8 or 9 or 9 or 10, and he took it through. And should he take her, not take her? You know, figure well, if it gets too overwhelmed, we should leave in the middle. And at the end of going through this, the little girl asked the father, "Say, can I have a pen? Can I have a pen?" Yeah. And at the end of it, he gave her the pen, and there's a book that you write on the exit when you leave, and the book said, you know, write your name, and comments. Mm-hmm. And the comment that she wrote was, "Why didn't anybody do anything about this?"
Good question.
And he said, and that was. So then he understood that his daughter understood exactly what it's all about, right? And so and he said Sanders, Sarah Sanders, the press secretary of President Trump. He said, then that's my daughter. I was a dad, and that was my daughter. Right, so just very fascinating. Right, so it's a very sophisticated question.
Yeah, Rabbi,
but
question.
Yeah.
You know the question he asked.
Right.
I think that question that's what I was checking. I read it over and over. And when you go in the Devarim in the Parashat Ikev, right? So, okay, it's not anybody to say, but I think we should get the answer from ourselves, whatever happened in Europe through the Torah over here, because you know the Rabbi Shalom Arush, he wrote the Garden of Gratitude
right.
in Israel.
Right.
And you know, when you that, he confirmed that. He said, I don't know why people are struggling. They can see the answer for themselves, but they don't want to take it. Mm-hmm. And I agree with him. So that based on the Parashat Ikev, everything should be clear for us. God, you provoke my anger. You know, he mentioned over, I will destroy you. You know, over and over. So I think what is God when this thing happen? Okay, so my question also that I said, what do we do? There might be something there.
Right. The line. It's this week's Torah portion.
Right.
Somebody once said this at my Shabbos table. You know, I said okay. I said I'm going to give you. Open up to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and read chapter 28. And when you finish reading chapter 28, ask me if you have any questions. And so if you go to synagogue this Shabbat, chapter 28, Deuteronomy chapter 28, but only read it if you have a box of tissues next to you. Okay, so only one way to become wealthy. What is the only way to become wealthy?
Make sure we get it from Hashem.
God, well, there's no other way to get it. But God gives it to you. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, why should God give us money? Right? And we have to answer that question, right, before we can get it. right? We got to understand it, right? Why are we, right? Why should God go ahead and God should give it to us? Right? And so what we have to realize is at the end of the day,
So there's nothing we can do to encourage him?
of course there is. A lot of things you can do to encourage him. Actually, that's going to be next week. That's going to be next week's class on how to become wealthy, right? And so it actually is, the Torah tells us exactly what we have to do. And it's pretty clear. The Torah spells it out. But it's interesting, right? Because really we have to understand is why do we have what we have? Because we need it. God gave it to us, right? God gave it to us, and we need it for our mission that we need to accomplish. So the first thing we have to recognize is, what is our mission in this world, right? What do I need to accomplish in this world?
With the talents that I have.
With the talents that God has given me, because I have a unique contribution to make to this world. And how do you know you have?
How do you answer that? Do you get to do it?
Of course. And to get to do it is the wrong answer, because what are you supposed to do?
Only God knows. You can't really know.
No. Your job is to try to do what you need to accomplish. You know, I'm going to tell you something. There's a great story.
If you're not sure, you should try anyway.
There's a great story. There was a guy who had this huge boulder in front of his house.
Huge what?
Boulder, rock.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And one day Elijah the prophet.
Kamehameha is his name.
And one day, Elijah the prophet shows up and says, "I want you to push this rock every day, with all your might." And every day the guy goes out and is pushing this rock and pushing this rock and push it, and it doesn't budge. He says, "Well, God told me to push this rock. I have to push it. It's got to move. Push the rock. Push the rock. Push the rock." Nothing happens. Years. Every day he's going out pushing rock and nothing's happening. Doesn't understand it. Finally, one day, he's in the middle of the city, and there's a big crash. And right in front of him, a wagon collapses and falls and pins a child to the ground. Now, he's been pushing a rock for many years. He had muscles behind his earlobes. He walks up to the cart and is able to pick the cart up enough to get the child out of the cart. And finally, he understands why God told him to push that rock every day. You see, he thought his job was to push the rock, to move the rock. And that wasn't why God told him to push the rock. Right? And so we all have our talents. We all have the things that we have. We all have to figure out why we have them. So instead of worrying out why I don't have money, we have to figure out why God, what is our job in this world and what do we have to do? And if we do have money, what our job to do with that money is. Right? That becomes the real question. Right? We have to understand, why did God give it to us? Did God make a mistake and give me more than I can eat?
No.
Right? So why do I have it and what am I supposed to do? Right? That becomes a question. We have lots of assets. We have health, smarts, brains, money, intelligence, charisma, time. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on.
Number 8 for me is a wife, a nice
wife. Right? How does the Torah tell us to use our assets?
For the service
Wisely. Right? Wisely. Right? He gave it to us, right, to serve God. Right? We have to use them in that way.
Yeah.
Right? When you have financial questions, right? Who should you speak to? God. Good.
No, the Rabbi.
No, the answer is you speak to your financial planner.
That's your Rabbi.
But no, but very important. You have a financial planner.
Then you have less money to
But then, right, but you have to make sure, right, that then you speak to a person who'll be able to tell you what God wants you to do with it. Right? And again, right, and I tell people all the time, right? You know, you have to make sure that you do with it what you need to do with it.
Yeah.
And you make sure you act responsibly, but understand what you have and what you don't have. And understand what your job is, because you think your job is that you can retire at 50 instead of 65. I don't know if that's your job. Right? The job might be that you're not giving enough of it away. Right? We all have jobs, and we all have responsibilities. and our job is to do our responsibilities. That's what we need to do. Right? That's what needs to happen. Right? And now if God decided, then why do I have to worry where my money goes to? If God controls everything, right, and therefore everything happens from God, so why do I have to worry about then where my money comes to, or is coming from, or going to?
Because you have to make the effort.
Oh, very good. Hishtadlus. We have to make our effort. And again, and remember, what are we going to get judged on the results or on the efforts that we made?
The efforts.
The efforts that we made. Right? That's what we're going to control. That's what we control.
Yeah, but in the parasha Ikeva, God say, you give me in proportion of how I bless you. So whatever you have, that's based on how God bless you. That's what you give it to God. So He's not asking for a commission on our wealth, because I have this thing. Okay, God give it to me, so I feel free to give something.
Well, the question is, why did God give it to you?
To serve.
No. So you have to know what it is, right? To understand why He gave it. God does not need your money. I promise you. Okay.
What is that word?
Hishtadlus.
It's just that we live.
Hishtadlus in Hebrew and English.
Hebrew, I don't understand English.
Or Hebrew.
When they transliterate stuff, it just...
Hishtadlus means effort. Hey, shin, hishtadlus, right? Hey, hishtadlut. Ah.
That's not Hebrew. That's not it.
Okay.
Okay, come on, give us
Right? Hishtadlut, spell it. Hey, shin, tough, right? Daled, lamed, vav, saf. Hishtadlut, which means effort. Means we have to put the effort in. Right? And that really applies to everything. Because that's really our job, is to put in the effort. Right? What happens? At the end of the day, it's up to God. God controls it. Don't worry about it. Right? Yeah. Ishtad, Daled, Lamed, Vav, Saf.
You can have a private Hebrew lesson.
Yeah, okay. Right? So we have to do, right? Ishtad, Saf.
Every Friday.
Okay.
Morning. Class in Hebrew with the man.
Okay. Hishtadlus. Good. Okay. First rule. What is your first rule? First rule: live within your means. Right. Very important. Right. Right. Go ahead. Make sure that you're not living above your means. Second rule: prioritize your spending. Right. Make sure that you go ahead and you do your spending in the right way. Third rule: make a budget and stick to it. Right, and as Ziggy says, why is there so much month left at the end of my money?
Why is there so much what?
Why is there so much month left at the end of my money? Right. There's another 15 days left to the month by the time I finish my money. Right? It's such a great line. Ziggy is so brilliant. Okay. And really, a good way to do this, by the way, is to actually spend your money. Should be doled out, right? Spent before you even get it, right? You know what you're getting for your paycheck? Go and decide where that money is going even before you get it. You know, the rule of thumb, David Winston, also financial planner, right? Actually, I did this class with him many years ago. So he always says, save 10%, give away 10%, and live on 80%. Right? He said that's always a good rule of thumb. Right? But learn how to do that. Right? You have to learn how to budget. You have to learn how to stick to it. Right? Sometimes it's easier, by the way, for people is to go ahead. Is to make a separate bank account for what they're giving away to charity. Because that way it only hurts once when you put the money in, right? But then you can give it out. It's not your money, it's not yours, right? Because we have to train ourselves to do that, right? We have a hard time doing that.
What happens if you make a budget, but you don't know how much is ever coming in? You're in business for yourself.
I know, so very good. So what hopefully do is you're able to at least save up, so you know how much money you have in the bank, right? So you have a couple month leeway, right? So what's up at 6 months? 6 months of living expenses. Try to have at least liquid cash, and so then every 3 months you could kind of
Right, for 44 years I've been doing budgeting. All right, I do a whole thing with week by week budget, and starting with the beginning balance and how I'm spending the
Right.
money and all that. It doesn't work.
Okay, so
It
Norm,
doesn't work. I
so
mean, I've been doing it for 44 years.
Norm. The good news is that we have
Are you a CPA?
is that is Scott is here, so you could ask Scott.
That's why it's
Scott's whole business is to take people's money out of their hands, so that at least they can do with them what they want to do with. Extra 3/4 of your job.
It has never worked.
You need help.
Well, I asked for help.
No. Stop asking from God. He sent Scott into your life. Yeah. No. So the answer is so go find somebody who can help you.
But not always is the same amount of income that you get.
Correct. Right.
So you have to base in a.
You have a rolling year.
Average.
Right, an average. But usually what I tell people to do is like this. And depending on how much off it is but to go ahead and you take off, you could either do quarterly or half year, right, or every 6 months or a year. Is that you figure out what you think you're going to get. And then you go ahead and then you could give out charity and you do all your expenses based on that. And if you have 6 months living, right? And so then at the end of 6 months, you sit down and you see how far up or down you are, right? And if you've given too much charity, and you said at the beginning that if you're giving too much, you're just paying ahead, right? So then the next 6 months, you kind of cut back. And if you haven't given enough because God blessed you and you had even more, so then you go ahead and you write the check and you give it then, right? I mean, that's what like it's before Rosh Hashanah now. So some people like doing it, before Rosh Hashanah, sitting down and giving out the charity. Yeah, because before Rosh Hashanah, it's always like a time where we need a little extra merit to get through the judgment. Sit down and to write the checks that we know we should have written, right? Some people do it at the end of the year, right? That's when you're doing a fiscal. You're doing an American calendar year, so you do an American calendar year, right? But that's what you do. You kind of figure out sort of where you're at, and then you could go from there. That's really the way to do it. I'm saying the way that just like if you anything really, you're trying to budget something, you want to buy a big ticket item, right? So you're saving up money, so you're putting money away, and hopefully at the end of the time you look back and you say, do you have enough money to do it or not? Right? But that's really very important to try to at least stick to that when you go ahead and you decide ahead of time where you're putting your money or where your money is going. So when that paycheck comes, you're ready. You've given it out. It's done, right? So then at that point in time, that's a way to control it. Yes?
Yeah, I know we live in a society we should be organized, but the Talmud say, whatever your treasure is, that's where your heart is. So not to...
Wherever your what?
Your heart.
Now what's the first part? Wherever?
Whatever your treasure is, that's where your
treasure.
Treasure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a French accent. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, sorry. It sounds very intelligent when it comes to French.
That's where your heart is.
Right.
So, and then the Talmud goes on to say, don't worry about what will you be eating tomorrow. So Hashem is in control to provide you the need. So what is the contrast? And then what is the dichotomy there?
No. So I'm telling you what it is. It's all about balance. It's about setting up your priorities. That's the main part. Right? What are your priorities? I mean, and next week I have some amazing stories. Really, really good stories. Make sure you come next week. It's amazing. Just on prioritizing, really what's real and what's not real, and making sure that we do.
So this is supposed to be the second class.
Right, this is a second class.
Okay, but we only covered the first page.
No. We're halfway through outline number 2 actually, and we're up to number 9 on the second outline. Okay, number 9. Okay, very important. Okay, we have a couple more things. I want to finish up the last 3. Number 9 on class number 2 is make sure not to hold on to God's money. Very important note over here. Don't hold on to God's money. That's not a good way to convince God to give you more by taking money from God. Okay, what does that mean? It means that God gives you should understand, He gives you money that you need, and then He says, by the way, I'm going to give you an extra 10 to 20%. That's my money, and your job is to give it out.
So you can keep 80 or 90%?
80 to 90% you get to keep. And that's after taxes, by the way. Right, okay? Right, it's after taxes.
You may have more if
right, and then after income tax. Okay, after income tax. right, is that to go ahead and, right, so let's just use a very simple example. Okay, a person makes $100,000 a year. Tax on $100,000 a year, let's say it's $30,000, down to $70,000. Person makes $70,000 a year. Okay, so he's making $70,000 a year. 10%, between 10 and 20%, between 7 and 14,000 is meant to, right, is God gave you to give out. Right? So that means, let's just call it 13. I tell people to shoot for 13%, because 13% is hopefully you'll count the money that you made correctly and the money you gave out correctly, so that's 13% is $9,000. So you have $61,000 to spend on yourself, and you have $9,000 to give out to charity. Okay? Right? And then if you get a bonus at the end of the year, and you may get a $50,000 bonus, right? So again, you're giving, let's say 35%, whatever, you're giving away to the U.S. government, 17.5, you get another 32,000, give another 13%, give another $5,000, you give a 14 grand in charity. Don't hang on to God's money. That's not a healthy way to make money. Right? Okay, this is kind of like some things don't need to be said. Don't hang on to God's money. Okay? He gives us all the money that we get. He gives us extra to be able to give out, to be His treasurers. That's which is why we want to be wealthy, right? We want to show God that we trust us with His money, right? We're supposed to learn to emulate God and to be a giver, right? That's our job, right? The more you give, the better you feel, right? And then, as one of my people said, keep on giving till it feels really good. Right? Is that you have to learn how to give. You have to learn to become godly. That's our job. Yes.
What you give to your children and family, does it count?
Does it count? So the question is, if your children poor, or you just give them nice things?
No, if they
have no income.
Okay.
So
if
what
they
happens if they have no income?
No. Right. So if the child has no income, so then you should give it to them, and that does count as charity. If they're older, right? Again, a certain age you can't, but yes, that does count as charity. It does count as charity. But again, you have to make it feel like charity. Right. And again, that's always right. You don't want. But now again, it's important to understand, right? But let's say they can live on $3,000 and you give them $5,000, so $3,000 is charity, the other two is not. That's just parenting money, right? That makes sure it just comes out of the right pocket. Okay, so now again, right? Don't hold on to God's money. Not a good, healthy way to become wealthy. Tractate Bentzi of 42a. Scott, you want to read it for us?
A person should keep a third in land, a third in goods, and a third in cash.
Okay, right? The Talmud says diversification is king. Okay, right? Go ahead and make it, right? So practical applications for nowadays, right? Right, a third in land, and right, a third in exactly how to do that, right? So, right, Talmud's telling you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Not a smart thing to do. Right, good real estate people share good deals. Right, if a good deal comes along, right, you don't want, right, again, it looks really good, you think it's going to be great, you share it, so you kind of spread it around a little bit. Don't take all the risk. Yes?
Are goods considered, is the house considered goods or part of the land?
That's very interesting. Actually, the house is considered the banks. Okay, yeah. Okay. House is considered land. Land. Then because land is not portable. You know, sadly, through our Jewish history, we learned that you had to be very fluid, right? Because you never know what would happen.
Unless you buy the land in Israel.
Right. So like, that really is, right? That really becomes. You got to learn to don't put all your eggs in one basket. Right. I wrote 60-85% in equities, 15 to 40% bonds and cash. And nowadays, it's also interesting whether stocks are considered land or goods, because stocks really are liquefiable really any moment. And so therefore that becomes a question whether which category they fall into. But this is also just very important, is that to hire a professional who's watching it for you, because you spend all day watching your money and worrying about it, then your money is anything but helpful to you. Right? At that point in time, your money then becomes just another burden on it. Right? So ultimately the bottom line is, the takeaway is, remember that God is what is in charge of how much money we make. God is in charge of how much money we lose or don't make, right? And so our job is, we've got lots of assets, right? Money just is one of those assets, and we have to recognize that we have to use them for the sake of God, right? And just finance is just another piece of that, on learning how to go ahead and to use what we have for the right purpose. And again, you have to do your ishtadlus, your effort, and again, that might be hiring a financial planner or right, speaking to one, etc. Might so live within your means, prioritize your spending, and 3, make a budget and stick to it. Kind of pre-spend your money so you know where it's going. If you don't have a set income, so then kind of either do it every 3 months or every 6 months or every 9 months. Right, just kind of go ahead and make a budget and roll with that, and then you could go ahead and you could correct it every 3, 6, 9 months or a year. And in that way, then you go ahead and you live a financially stable, healthy life, and God willing, He will bless you with great wealth because you will show Him that you are doing the right things with it. And when you show Him you're doing the right things with it, at that point in time, then you go ahead and then you show God that He could give you with more. Right? Money is a big challenge, and just make sure that we go ahead and to make sure we're doing the right thing with it. And with that, I'll end with one story. Many years ago, when we had just moved to Dallas, and in the 90s, I don't remember exactly when. It was after I was in the house. Okay, I think in the mid 90s maybe. And there was the lottery had the lottery had become like this lot of money. And Texas, we had this Texas-sized lottery, and everyone was busy buying tickets. So Rabbi Klein called up his mother, right, of blessed memory, and said, "Mom, do you want me to buy you a ticket?" So his mom said, she said in Yiddish, but I'll tell it to you in English. This is such a great line. She says, "Why do I need such a test?" She says, "Absolutely don't buy me a ticket." She says, "Because I should put myself, then I'm going to put myself into, we ask God to protect me, not putting me into a test." And she says, "I don't want it." She says, "Please do not buy me a ticket." Right? And that really is something just important. Like, we laugh about it, we joke about it, we spend all our time running after money. But at the end of the day, now we recognize that God is the one who decides how much money we make. Right? And really, He gives us what we need. And we think wealth is great, and so then we go ahead but then when God forbid when people get tested by it, right? They don't pass it with such flying colors. And it's really just very important to understand that you got it. And next week we'll talk a lot more about this, right? But to go ahead and to recognize what money really is worth, what it's not, and to make sure that we do the right thing with it. Everyone have a wonderful evening. We'll see you all same bad time, same bad station again. Don't forget the high holidays are coming up, right? So make sure you make your reservations for the data learner service. We have one here, one in Plano, one in Richardson, one in far north Dallas. And then we have...
This one is in Orator?
Yeah, this one's in Orator. And alrighty, everyone have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.